We are the only Catholic presence of God in Western Navajo Nation, and the western part is 3,686 square miles, 1/4 of the Navajo Nation.
Hi, everyone. This is Sister Elizabeth, and you are listening to In the Company of Charity, the podcast of the Daughters of Charity. And I am here today with Sister Liz Schoberg, my co-host, who always continues to show up, which is just delightful.
We just can't stop hanging out.
That's right. That's right.
It's too much fun.
Yes, it is.
We have a great time.
We do. If people only knew the conversation prior to hitting the record button.
Yeah, not for public consumption.
No. Well, yeah, that's true. It's not for public consumption.
We have a ball, and we just always enjoy getting to meet some new people and listening to their stories. And this is no exception. This episode that we're going to listen to.
It was a great time with three of our sisters who are in Tuba City, Arizona. They live on the Navajo Reservation. Tuba City sits in the Navajo Reservation, very close to the Hopi Reservation that is in the middle of the Navajo Reservation in this area. And it's just, they are just incredible. Sister Catherine, Sister Mary Peter, and Sister Caridad. And I said it was raucous.
Those girls are really funny.
They were hysterical. And I think, when you listen, you're just going to fall in love with these three sisters. And I think what really struck me was they are so connected and so supportive of each other. You know, they really, really want the others, each other to succeed. And, it was difficult, obviously. And we always are talking about this time of COVID. But, certainly being on a Navajo reservation during this, the Navajos got hit very, very hard at COVID. Exactly. And it was quite devastating, but they're pulling themselves out. They're 50% vaccinated, apparently, the community. And so there's all kinds of really good things happening now. But at the time we recorded, they were still in somewhat of a lockdown, and they were just being so supportive of each other. And I thought they almost have to be, because they're literally out in the middle of nowhere. They're going to describe that for you, and you're going to get a real sense of, okay, they are really out there.
You got to listen to that story they tell about. It's somebody gets stuck in the sand, and then there's no signal to be able to call for help. We're talking about the place the size of the Navajo Nation there, the size of West Virginia.
That's right.
It is enormous, expansive. You can go for miles without seeing a soul kind of place.
But, they're so really, really devoted to being a presence in the community and in the area. They're at St. Jude's Parish, and they're just there to be faithful witnesses to God's love in the community. And but to talk with them, they kind of finish each other's sentences, or they kind of talk over one another, and then they're somehow discovering things they didn't know. I didn't know that. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm just loving this. Is just a great community conversation. And they just were so eager to talk about their work, their ministry, their life together, their church, the people that they minister with. It was a delight to talk with them.
Yeah, y'all are really going to love this interview. And overall, for me, the theme was ministry of presence, being present to people, loitering with a purpose, if you will. That was one of the phrases that a vocation director once told me. Loiter with a purpose.
Yes. It's important to just loiter. Just be around. Yeah. And we should say one other thing that I discovered in our last episode. If you haven't heard it, go back and listen to our episode about Alaska, the work that the daughters do in Anchorage, Alaska, and here now in Tuba City. And a couple of these sisters actually kind of swapped ministries. And so these folks have kind of been out on the fringes of our provincial works for a while, and but they're no less connected to community, and that also was was delightful to hear. So
we can take bets on whether you or I will eventually get missioned to Tuba City.
I've been begging to go there for years. I said, twice I almost got there, and twice I was pulled away. So if it's meant to be, but it was great to just have a conversation and hear their excitement about their work. So enjoy the episode, everyone. Take some time to get to know these wonderful sisters, and they'll give you some ideas of how they would like you to pray for them and for their work at the end of the episode. So stay with it and connect with these sisters through prayer.
God bless you guys.
Bye. I am so grateful to be in the company this evening of three wonderful sisters who are living in Tuba City, Arizona, which is situated in the Navajo Nation in that area. They belong to and work out of the parish St. Jude, and they have a lot of wonderful works they're going to tell us about. And so I'm here tonight with Sister Catherine, Sister Caridad, and Sister Mary Peter, all who are living in Tuba City. And they're just going to tell us a little bit about themselves. So why don't we start with Sister Catherine? Tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe when you got there and what you do.
I have been here for 6 years, and during that time, when I first came, the pastor said to me, well, your job, your ministry is to loiter with a purpose. And that was the whole job description, which was a little unsettling in a sense, because we're always used to filling in a particular place with everything lined up. So I have loitered with a purpose, and I've collected so many ministries at this point that it's it's a lot. One of the ones that I do is I was visiting the elderly in their homes, and now we're doing phone visits. And some of the phone visits are getting kind of sad because some of them are getting COVID and they're very upset, or they've lost a lot of people in their families from COVID, and it's very upsetting to them. My hospital ministry, it doesn't exist anymore because you really don't want to go near a hospital full of COVID people. So that's done. And for a while, quite a while. And then I help with the St. Vincent de Paul Society. And again, we had been doing home visits, but now we do phone visits. And our meetings are on Zoom, just like we're doing now. And it's been very good. We didn't like the idea of going to phone visits, because when you're in somebody's home and they can sit there and be comfortable with you and open up and get rid of some of their worries, it's one thing. And we didn't know that the phone for a lot of people works the same way. And so there have been some very, very sad stories, because some of our people, their occupation was like selling jewelry and food and like that at the flea market, which has not been open since March. And that was the sole income for their families. And so it's that type of thing that we hear a lot about. And we're just really grateful that people have continued to donate to Vincent de Paul Society so that we can help these people out. And I do odds and ends around the parish too, but that could go on forever.
So you do. So your loitering has taken you in many parts of the area, it sounds like.
Yeah.
And most of the people that you minister with, that you work with, are Native Americans. Is that?
Yes, Navajo and Hopi.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So this is a really unique ministry. We don't have another ministry like this in either the province of St. Elizabeth Ann or St. Louise. So that's why I was really looking forward to having some time to talk to you folks. Sounds a little like some of the same situations you would find in any situation, in any ministry, people who live in poverty, people who have need, certainly we're recording this in February, and so we're still in the throes of the COVID pandemic. So there's some of the same issues, and yet I imagine that the poverty levels and the issues we keep hearing about in disadvantaged communities, especially among people of color and Native Americans, that it's even more concerning. So we really appreciate that the work that you do and that your loitering is paying off in some ways, and you're really getting out there to be a presence, as we would say on the more holy side, that you're a presence to the people there. You know, so Sister Mary Peter, can you tell us a little bit about what you do here in St. Jude's Parish in this area?
Okay, I came in July of 2019. So I work in the bank. We have a food bank here, which is on the property of the St. Jude Parish. And so I was just getting used to, or getting to know what to do. And when the pandemic hit, of course, okay. So we were used to having people come every day to receive their food baskets, their boxes we make. So 5 days a week, we were open from 10 till 2, right? So when the pandemic hit, we had to, it was really an interesting couple of days, because we still had a lot of fresh produce. And so we had to put word out that we were going to just, try and give it out. So we had like over about maybe 118 cars that came that one day.
Wow.
And we still had more, so we were supposed to close, I think it was March 19th, but we still had more produce. So we opened the second day, and that day we had just a couple of our staff here, and but we had the Mormon elders. They are across the road here, and they used to come and help us. So they came that day also, which was great. So we ended up with 4 of them. It was wonderful. And so we gave the rest of our produce, and we had like 80 cars, I think, that day that came. So right now we're doing seniors on Monday, and the families with children from 5 years younger on Fridays, and that's been working pretty good. And we even have, besides my mask, I also have a shield. So I have to wear a shield for the meeting. And then Sister Caridad said, now I could wear 2 masks plus the shield.
Well,
we'll have our second shot tomorrow. So.
Oh, well, that's good. So you've been able to get the vaccine. That's wonderful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
No, it's
yes,
not the cure-all, but it's certainly, because it sounds like as each of you were, Sister Catherine and Sister Mary Peter, as you were both speaking, that you've had to make adjustments. You've been there for a while. You had ministry moving in one way, and you had to make some, and we always talk about St. Vincent talking about being inventive into infinity, having to really say, okay, how can we continue to serve when there doesn't seem to be a path? But Sister Caridad, your experience is a little bit different, is it not? You came kind of in the midst of, or right at the beginning of the pandemic?
Well, I did come November of 2019, a few months after Sister Mary Peter came. But I was here, I was sent temporarily, basically to be the third person, so they can have the local dialogue, separation for the provincial assembly and then the General Assembly. And that's why it was temporary. So being a temporary, the pastor didn't want to give me a lot of assignment. And I had to laugh at my biggest job during Mass is to hold the bathroom key for the people.
So because you were really just there to help create community for meetings, right?
Yes.
And he didn't want to put a lot of work on you. So holding the bathroom key, that's important though.
And light the candles, put on the heat before Mass, and and do all the sacristan work. So in the meantime, we did go ahead and have the
Domestic
the
assembly.
domestic
Yeah.
assembly.
So we should say at domestic assemblies and general assemblies, these are meetings that we as Daughters of Charity have to plan out
Yeah.
kind of the next 6 years of our life. And because we're
Correct.
all over the world, these are pretty important meetings, and they happen in small communities like your own and larger communities. And then there's a lot of gathering later. So so you had your assembly, and the temporary nature of your life became permanent, or, well, nothing's permanent, we know that, but
Well, I don't know. I mean, I, to tell you the honest, I can't remember what I did because there's not much then to do. But I did a lot of basically office work in learning how to do the finances. You know, at that
okay.
time we still had the parish council, and I
Inventory.
took the minutes, and then later on we had a financial audit. So that was that I got involved with that one and ended up doing the inventory of the assets of the parents, which has never been done. And the finance officer from the diocese asked about that, and so we had to do it. At least I had something to do because, you know, it's a big property and we have several buildings and all that stuff. And then I'm still learning and to do the QuickBook because, you know, but that was really after the pandemic did come. But anyway, after it was decided that I will stay, but then I do have to get the rest of my things from California. And right after that, then we had our last mass because the national lockdown started.
That's right.
And our mass was at March 15th, which was the Sunday,
Right.
was the feast of, former feast of St. Louis.
But then after the March 20th, we couldn't meet anymore. And then Father, for the confirmandi, when he was going to confirm them, they came separately. Every family came separately.
My family.
But, you know, with the family, well, actually, it was the confirmandi, their sponsor, and their parents, or that
Just
came.
5 people.
Yeah, just, 5, really.
Wow.
And right, so we, you know, that was done. And so that's why that was sister job was taking the temperature of the people that came in.
So,
That was the other thing.
That was the next
yeah,
job.
so you're doing kind of these very kind of, you know, physical, I should say, between bathroom key and taking temperatures, as well as assessing the parish's assets. That's a pretty wide range of, that's versatility of a daughter of charity I haven't heard in a long time. So so Sister Catherine, in the midst of all this, your St. Vincent de Paul Society, they're, as you were saying, they're now using the phone, correct, to try to do some of their ministry. So yeah, it just sounds like, you know, not just that you had to be really creative, but that the people themselves, you know, were isolated from these kinds of activities. And so what, I guess what, you know, I realize, I imagine this community is very, you're very close. You're kind of in a remote area, correct? So tell me about the sense of isolation that maybe the community has overall, because it is so remote, and how the experience of the pandemic has even maybe deepened that sense of being isolated from a wider community.
So we have the church, and then we have the rectory, and then we have our house, which is really triple-wide. The parish hall, gym, what do they call it?
Gym.
The parish gym, and attached to that we have a kitchen, and then attached to that is the food bank. So it's the office of the food bank, and then and the other offices there, and then the where we distribute the food. And then further down, we have a warehouse. And it's pretty, good sized warehouse.
Yeah.
So that's, if you see that, and the rest of it is just land. Now you come to Tuba City.
And she just finished telling you it was the largest population, but that is what it is, the largest population. It's not really looking like a city.
Yeah.
We do good at fast foods, dollar stores, and that kind of stuff. And that's it.
Well,
Even as you come up Main Street, the streets jutting off to people's houses are all dirt roads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So when your St. Vincent de Paul Society is what, doing home visits? What's the
four-wheel drive?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say, well, tell me about that, Sister Catherine. How do you make these trips? How do you get out there?
Louise.
Oh,
Remember?
okay. Yeah, she would just remind me a couple good stories on this. Okay, what you do is you hope that you have, well, I like to go with a couple of the ones that are like EMTs and that type of thing, because they've been everywhere, so they know where they're going.
Right.
Because people give you the directions that you should go west of Tuba City by 1/4 of a mile and turn at the tree and that type of thing, because there are no street signs, even if there is a paved road. And one of the funny things is I did see this one day, a paved road with a street sign, and we got up to the street sign. You know what it said? No name road.
Oh, you're kidding.
It really did.
You can't
I
make this
couldn't
stuff
get
up,
over it.
Catherine.
I laughed myself silly. But anyhow,
Yeah.
That's good, because there's one in California.
Yeah, that's right.
No,
Ours was no name.
No name, no name street
Yeah.
in a big city.
Yeah.
so anyhow, one of the things that you have to be careful of when you are going to these home visits is where you're driving. Some of the roads have been what's like plowed. They take like a what do you call that you use for snow?
The gravel, the what?
No, the machine.
Oh, the
The
snow plow.
snowplow?
And they just make it level. Now, the thing about level's level, but what they've done is they've taken the top clay off, and you are riding on like washboard. So some of them call it fish bones, but it's the long and short of it is it's an up and down thing. And then you have to be real careful, like when you go off of that main road and you go back some, what are you driving on? Now, two of ours, we had two of the oldest members. One's like late 80s and the other's middle 80s. And the two of them decided they would be partners one Sunday and visit the poor. Okay, no problem. They certainly knew their way around. They were both Navajo. So they went to visit this lady and they went smack over pure sand and stayed there.
Got stuck.
Oh no.
Yes,
Yeah.
and then they had to call someone to get the truck out of this. The one of them, it's her truck, and they had to get the truck out of the sand and that type of thing. That's we haven't gotten stuck. We have gotten stuck a couple times. I haven't been with the person that got stuck, thank heavens. But you really are sort of because where you get stuck, you might not be in sight of anything. It's not like you got stuck in a neighborhood. You got stuck in the middle of nowhere. So if you happen to be really lucky, you also don't have phone. The phone doesn't pick up because you're out of range.
Oh my goodness. Well, remember that visit I said I might make?
Yeah, now people have used the word third world with Navajo Nation, and they're right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of like,
Well, Sister Marie Raw, tell her that.
yeah. Oh yeah, Sister Marie Raw came to visit, and I took her on my tour, the France tour of Tuba City, and I was taking her down this little hill, and she just exclaimed, "Oh, it's just like Kenya."
And that's very true, because when I was in Kenya when she came to visit. So when when I heard that, and I said, I felt the same way. I thought when I came here, I thought I was back in Kenya with the dirt road, no direction, and well, talk about isolation. This is more isolated than where I was.
Yeah, yeah.
Even in our other missions, they're not totally isolated because, well, you can talk to the neighbors. They're within community of people.
Mhm.
But here, because we're in the compound, Paris compound,
Right.
we have to go a little bit further.
There's a fence around us. We do have a fence around us. And on one side, there are some, the mobile homes, but you never really, right now especially, you never really see the people. And we do have the Mormons on the other side, but you can't get to that either. I mean, from us.
Yes,
you have to go out on the road. You have to go on the road and drive out. But and they have this cattle grade at the entrance, which is very difficult to walk over too. I tried it.
Because the cattle comes into the compound and do their thing.
Yeah, so we do get cattle coming in sometimes.
One morning we got up and there was about 8 steer right outside.
Right outside.
Yep, they managed to get right over the cattle guard. So they were better than us because we find it difficult, but they had no problem.
I know it. They walked over it.
And who did they belong to? What? Tell me about this. Who did they belong to?
Okay, the cattle. Okay, there's a whole different concept on owning cattle and sheep, and having cattle and sheep. So the Navajo way is that you have them, but they're sort of free range. Like it gives new meaning to the word free. They're just all over the place. But they expect that the cattle and the sheep are going to stay where they put them, but they don't. And so they are labeled. Some of them have little rings in their ears and that type of thing, so that when they're found, the police have a catalog of what belongs to who, and they can be gotten back. But they, the cattle, they're looking for food,
Sure,
food and water, and so they go wherever they think. So you have them just about wherever. It's not regular. It's not like every time you go outside you see them or something like that. But they come when they come and they go when they go. And there is a special ranger who does nothing but the cattle. So you call this guy. I've got him on my phone.
We got cattle in the yard. Can you,
yes.
can you keep them home?
Yep. And so then he goes and he gets somebody who has a large enough cattle trailer, and he comes by and talks to the cattle, and they get right in. I mean, they're very friendly.
Yeah.
And so then they take them back to whoever they
at the expense of the
owner.
Of the owner.
Oh,
we had to pay.
Yeah, I mean, if anything happens to the cattle in your property, you're responsible to it.
Oh,
That's what Father told me.
Okay, I didn't know that.
But taking it back, so if nothing happened to the cattle while they were here and they get in the trailer nice, they take it back to the owner and the owner has to pay something.
For the transport back.
Yeah.
Wow. This, it's, I mean, I'm living up in the Northeast, but I had lived in the Southeast, and, thought maybe like living in the South was so different from living in the North. But this does sound like mission territory, that not what maybe the average person is experiencing.
We have Grand Canyon in Monument Valley.
Oh yeah, over that way here. We also have, there's the school. What is the school? The boarding school. It's across the street, and it takes a whole big block or more than a block. We have that, a whole block. We have that there. And then we have the homes that go with it, because the houses, because they provide houses for their teachers.
The
And is this
the
run by the
hospital.
Navajo or is this run by the church? The
No,
school?
no, no. The boarding school is from the
Rural Indian.
yeah, the
BIA.
Bureau of Indian Affairs.
There's, okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then they have housing. But then if you go a little further, we have the hospital down here too. We have a hospital here, and they also provide housing. So we have the housing for the school and for the hospital people.
So the
They
housing
don't
is for the
they don't
people
have-
who work.
Yeah, yeah,
They don't have normal neighborhoods.
yeah.
So somebody can't just come in and say, I'm going to rent a house over there,
No.
because there isn't a house over there. And also, you wouldn't be able to do it because of the land situation. It's Navajo land. The Navajos themselves have to have the right to use the land. I forget what it's called, I'm sorry. But at any
That's okay.
rate, they have to have, they have to go through all kind of hoops in order to get a piece of land to put a trailer on. And they even have an archaeological survey and a geological survey of that piece of land before they can plop a trailer on it. So if you're going to work here as somebody who's not Navajo, then you have to, well, unless you're just going to keep going to Flagstaff every day, which is an hour and a half away,
Yeah, which you're
Um,
not going to do.
right? Then they make the housing for the school and the hospital, and that's that way throughout the whole reservation. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
it's not peculiar to Tuba City.
So how big is this reservation? I mean, this is,
The size of West Virginia.
okay,
It's the
wow.
largest one in the country.
Yeah,
And-
I thought it was the largest.
Mhm,
Mhm.
mhm.
And you're actually near a Hopi reservation as well?
Yes.
Is that contained
It's in
within
there.
Yeah,
the
It's
Navajo?
contained within inside the Navajo Nation, which is very tricky because they
Yeah.
never got along.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
you know, the U.S. government didn't quite get it.
Well, that's an understatement, I think. Yeah.
And also the Navajo Nation is within three states, Arizona, Utah, and
New Mexico.
New Mexico.
Okay.
So it crosses 3 states and different counties for the
Wow.
whole Navajo.
Mhm.
There are about 180,000 residents, Navajo people, which is, they've had a lot of deaths lately. So
Oh, that's right.
whatever census
Yeah.
are happening last year is gonna change. No, 2020.
Well, I've read quite a few articles about in the effects of COVID, especially on
Mhm.
Native communities, or especially around the issues around language, that, you know, the language and the history, the oral traditions being held
Yeah.
by the elders, and they, you know,
Oh.
as in any other group, are the hardest hit by this. So
Right.
do you feel that at the end of this, if there is, God please that there is, an end, that not only your ministries but the community in which you work, the community that you minister to, will have drastic changes in the way that they
Oh,
interact with
definitely.
you, with one another? How do you think that's going to affect not just the parish but the way that you ministered? You already have a sense that you're going to be kind of having to make some changes, or that it's going to be more needed, not that it wasn't needed before, but that the reason the Daughters of Charity are there is going to be even more paramount and more important.
It's hard to say.
Yep, we've had different people would like us to kind of take a look at our works and assess our works and all this kind of
Mhm,
stuff, and it's
mhm.
like it's totally impossible. Particularly now, considering that when you get down to it, we are a ministry of presence.
Yes,
Whether we're
yeah,
handing out food or answering doorbells or whatever we are, that's really what we're all about. And how that's going to work, we really don't know. This is a trust in God's thing,
yeah, yeah.
purely. Can I have that paper?
Mhm.
I'd like to read this to you. We put it together when we were asked about what we're doing here.
Uh-huh.
And We are the only Catholic presence of God in Western Navajo Nation, and the western part is 3,686 square miles, 1/4 of the Navajo Nation. The nearest parish is St. Francis de Assisi and Flagstaff. It's not on the reservation, it's 44 miles away. There's another parish in Page, Arizona, and that's 73.9 miles away. Tuba City is 152.8 miles away from the nearest community of sisters, and they're in St. Michael's, Arizona. That is on the reservation. The Navajo and Hopi peoples come from rich tradition that reflects the presence of God in all creation and in their spirituality. While their tradition has a creation story, it does not reflect a God who loves them. Since the Catholic Church has been in the Tuba City area, which is approximately 60 years, a number of Navajo and fewer Hopi have embraced Catholicism. Additionally, there is a third world level of poverty here. Therefore, we need to be aware to be tenderly present to the people through our prayer and community life and the service we render them, thus letting them know that there is a God who loves them. That's what we're all about.
Yeah. So this sense that, there's a desire, sometimes we move along and say, oh, we need to reassess, and because there may not be as many Daughters of Charity as there once were, and whether this is a work we should stay in. I realize our criteria is often, what are we doing and how are we doing it, and is it really needed? And sometimes it's those, what we're doing, this serving of food, or it is a way in which we are present, and it's really the presence, it's being there with, I'm, the listeners know I work with recently resettled refugees, and I often talk about just being a good neighbor. It's not always about being the caseworker and the social worker, which are really important, but sometimes it's just being a good neighbor. It's just being present, being a witness to, as you were saying, Sister Catherine, a witness of God's love to people who sometimes either don't know or question whether God really loves them because of the suffering that they're in. So so your sense is that this is a place where Daughters of Charity should be, and that the church has a purpose. The church has a reason for being in this community.
And if we aren't, then the Catholic Church will not be in 1/4 of that whole western section of the Navajo Nation.
Yeah. So, as we begin to think of wrapping up, what would be something you want the listeners, one, to maybe pray for, as they're listening to this and it's touching their hearts, because I can't imagine someone listening isn't recognizing the difficulty of the mission that you're in, but also the poverty of the people, not just economic poverty, but the poverty that results in the loss of their culture through the death of their elders, and just the difficulty of their lives. What is it you want us to take away? What is it you want us to take to God in your name, and kind of storm heaven for?
I had some pictures of Our Lady of Guadalupe. And so I said, she said, am I not your mother? I said, she could be your mother too. Because some of them, they're having difficulties. And I said, ask her to help you.
Yeah.
And they do. I said, she's our mother. She's your mother too. Ask her to help. And they do ask.
Yeah. So we can certainly pray to Our Lady, that she, really can help people have a sense of that maternal, that caring that the church has.
I think so. Yes,
Yeah.
I think so. So,
Yeah.
And the thing, because Sister Mary Peter was the one that was pointing it out, the idea of if prayer could be offered, that they begin to realize that God loves them and they are not walking this alone.
Yes.
And if so, and hope and joy because this has been so difficult. They had lockdown on weekend,
Yeah.
and lockdown on weekend means you stay home. So that's the 14 of you on a single wide trailer, and that's
Yeah.
tough,
That is tough.
weekend
Yes.
after weekend. So that, you know, hope, joy, and know that God loves them.
Yeah.
So sisters, I just want to thank you so much for your time and for your stories, for your reflection. You know, I think, as I said, you know, this isn't necessarily exotic or remote. While it may be those things, this is real life. These are, you know, people that we ministered to. They're God's people, and the work that you do is wonderful. And you know, I think, Sister Catherine, you mentioned that sense of tender presence, that, you know, a presence that really helps people to recognize and to experience God's love. So thank you so much for bringing that to us, and to bringing that to the members, the people that you serve in Tuba City. Thank you so much.